Welcome everyone to our Sunday morning monthly setup. A lot of the times we are doing weekly setups on Sunday mornings, but today we get to do a monthly. And if you can believe it, it is already August. I know we were kind of talking about that in the chat. It's wild that it's already August. It feels like, especially this summer has just like flown by. I think in general this year has gone really fast, but especially this summer just seems to have slipped right through my fingers. But my name is Bailey Grady, and I will be your facilitator today. And I saw we had lots of first-time Sonder Social attendees with us today. So welcome. We are super excited that you're here. You are going to find all kinds of really good tips and tricks in what we go through today. And if you see anything up on the screen that you want to refer back to later, you can take a screenshot or snap a photo with your phone. And then we'll also share a link at the end of where you'll be able to find this social recording in a couple of days, along with all of our others if you need to go and listen back. You will notice that you do not have to worry about whether or not your camera is on or off, or if you're muted or not. I'll be the only one on camera today. So you can sit back, relax, and enjoy your time here together. One of the best things about socials is that you get to interact with your Sonder fam community, and we have lots of veterans here in the chat as well. So make sure that you are looking in that, because they are also going to have tips and tricks for you and really good advice about what they have used, what has worked for them, and you never know what's going to resonate with you. So definitely feel free to share in the chat and talk in the chat. And in order to do that, you're going to want to make sure that the little blue box by where you type is set to everyone. If a lot of the times it'll default to host and panelist, and if it says that, not everyone will be able to see what you have to say. And again, that's one of the best parts about having this time together, is being able to share with one another. So we want to make sure that you have that set to everyone so that you can share. But I am so excited to dive into this brand new month with all of you. So let's go ahead and go over our community guidelines here. So first and foremost, be kind and courteous to yourself and others. No promotions or spam, please. We're going to respect everyone's privacy here. We like to be open and authentic and vulnerable here in our Sonder socials, and sometimes that results in a lot of really good personal sharing. And so we want to just respect everyone's privacy. What happens in a Sonder social chat stays in a Sonder social chat. And then no hate speech or bullying. Try to limit repetitive product and accessory questions. We don't mind a little bit of chatter around that, but you will find that this time together goes by very quickly. So we'd like to try to stay focused on topic. And then there are certain questions that you may have that we will redirect you to the customer care team, because we do not have the ability to answer them. We don't work over at Silicon Solder headquarters. I'm coming to you from Hendersonville, Tennessee, just north of Nashville, not California. And so there are some things that we don't have access to be able to help you with. And speaking of we, you have myself here facilitating on camera, but also with us today in the chat is the fabulous Maya. She is fellow facilitator, and she will be chit-chatting with all of you today, helping to answer questions, provide some encouragement. So if you need anything, let us know, and we will do our best to help. But if we can't help, we will get you over to hello@silkandsolder.com. And finally, Sonder Socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community, but you're responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. So what that means is that if we start to tackle anything that brings up some uncomfortable feelings, right? We're doing a monthly setup today, so not as much like nitty-gritty, like journal prompt type things, but still, sometimes things can come up unexpectedly. If that happens and you need to take a break, that is okay. If it happens and you need to leave the social for the day and watch the recording, that's okay. If you just want to hang out in the chat, that's totally fine. You can hang out in the chat, get tips and tricks, and then set up your journal on your own time later. If you just want to spend time in your journal today and you don't feel like chit-chatting, that is also fine. Do neither, do both, whatever you need today. We want you to take that. This is your time that you have set aside for you. And in our monthly setups, we get an hour and 15 minutes together. So we get a little extra time. Most of our socials are an hour, but in these monthly setups, we do get a little bit of extra time together. So just keep that in mind as we go through. So our agenda today is we'll be completing our opening activity together for the month, and then we'll be reflecting on July before moving into our August intentions. and then setting up our mood and habit trackers so that hopefully you are ready to take on the month ahead. I see several of you are kind of recovering from illness, and I hope that you will feel so much better. I hope within the next couple of days you're feeling more yourself and that your journal will already be ready for you as you take on August. So, new month, new theme. We are saying goodbye to our theme of creativity and hello to our theme of freedom. Freedom is going to be one of those themes that seems simple at the surface, but it really means something different to everyone. And Meha talks about this in her opening letter to call out just a couple things. If you haven't read this, it's on page 2 of your journal. It's always a really great place to start with the theme each month so you can kind of get some insight into why Meha picked this theme and kind of what some of the prompts and things are geared towards and what place they're coming from. So it kind of be helpful to understand that. But she talks about traveling in the summer when she was younger, and being in a time where there's no structure, no routine, no limits. She talks about authentic self and that freedom is layered different to each person. And I want to talk about that specifically. So it's at the very bottom, and it says freedom is layered and it means something to each and everyone else. Be patient with yourself and don't overthink it. I hope August is a month of liberation, growth, and the joy of spreading your wings. You were born to soar. And the reason I call that out specifically is I think Maya and I may have like a little bit different definition of what freedom means to us. Which is not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that either one of us are wrong. Freedom is just one of those things that is deeply personal and it is going to resonate with everyone a little bit differently. And that's what we love here at Silk and Sonder, right? Like every theme is an opportunity for you to learn more about yourself, which means it's not necessarily about what the theme looks like on paper. It's about what it means to you and what it brings up to you in your life. Because she calls out having no structure, no routine, no limits. But to me, freedom, and on page 3, you can write down what your definition of freedom is. But for me, freedom means making choices authentically and taking on new challenges without pressure, influence, or restraint from others. So I think a lot of the times when we hear the word freedom, we tend to think of doing whatever we want, right? Like the freedom to be free and wild and live out in the world and have no responsibilities and just do whatever I want all the time. And that's just not realistic. Because the fact of the matter is, at least for me, freedom is about choice. So if I choose to take on a promotion at work, that does not mean I get to do whatever I want, right? It means that I now have chosen a role where I have to take on new responsibilities. And so I am kind of agreeing to the requirements that are there as a part of what I've chosen for myself. And I think that if any of you are parents, you can probably resonate with this sort of definition of freedom too, because you have tiny humans that are depending on you, right? And even if you're not a human parent, I mean, if you have a little pupper, right? Little pup has got to be taken out, do its business every day, like it's depending on you. And so you might want to sleep in all day, but you can't. You got to take your little fluff baby out, so that they can do their business. But you decided to take on that responsibility, right, of being like a puppy owner. And so you knew that that would come with it, right? And so I think that's where the beauty of freedom is that we do have this choice to make decisions. But how does that look when we have things in our life that we can't choose, right? And what I mean by that, at least from my personal story, is that I am somebody that has anxiety and I also have ADHD. And so there are a lot of things, especially with my anxiety, that I would love to be able to do. Like I would love to be able to do whatever I want. But my anxiety is like, okay, sure, you can do that. And then I will present you with a panic attack or you're going to hit burnout, right? And so there are a lot of things in life that like maybe I could choose to do, but it might not be a good decision for me. Or there are some times where like I don't feel like I have a choice. If I'm having a rough day, like I just can't. With my ADHD, sometimes all I want is to be able to focus, and I would love to flip a switch and just decide today I am focusing on this thing and I'm going to get it done. And I feel like my brain is just like, haha, cool. We'll see how that works out for you. And so what it starts to feel like for me sometimes is like I have this these things, right? This anxiety, this ADHD, and they are other, right? Like there's me, and then there are these things. But as hard as it may be to accept, and I do have trouble accepting it sometimes, those things are a part of me. They are part of who I am and my authenticity, and they're not separate from me. I am somebody who has anxiety, somebody who has ADHD. And so, because that's part of who I am, it is part of what I have to look at when I make decisions for myself. There are some limitations there because of those things, because they are a part of me. I can't do certain things all the time whenever I want to, right? But, and I love this quote from Stephen Hawking, and obviously he's a very famous figure. And if you're not familiar with him, first of all, mind blown, but also no judgment. Do a quick Google. He was like a certified genius, but he was disabled. And so this quote from him says, "My advice to other disabled people would be concentrate on things your disability doesn't prevent you from doing well, and don't regret the things it interferes with." So he's saying, like, accept yourself as who you are and focus on what makes you unique. Focus on the things you can do well instead of lamenting about the things you can't always do, right? And while my anxiety does limit me and my ADHD can make things very challenging, both of those things also allow me to do things that other people can't do. I can sit here and speak authentically to you about this because I have these things. And I see in the chat that a lot of you struggle with the same things. And so we have this connection. And if this wasn't something I was living with every day, we wouldn't be able to connect in this way. That doesn't mean that it's like, oh, I'm so glad we all have anxiety. Of course not. It would be a lot easier if we didn't, right? But it is something that makes us special and gives us a different perspective. Same with ADHD. For all of the ways that it gets in my way a lot of the times and makes things harder, it also allows me to see the world in a very different way. And I think it's part of the reason I'm such a good problem solver. So focusing in on those things works a lot better for me. And there's some other quotes up here on the screen that kind of go with the way that I see freedom in this way. Freedom is choosing your responsibility. It's not having no responsibilities. It's choosing the ones you want. Freedom is the will to be responsible to ourselves. And I think that is really key because there's a lot of things that we choose to do that are not actually things that we want to do, right? You have heard Meha probably talk about that absolute yes and some of the previous like daily rituals and even some of the other letters in the journals. And when we take on things because we feel like we should do it, I'm supposed to, like, who said that you're supposed to? There's a difference between responsibilities and obligations, right? Responsibilities are things that you do actually have to do. They are a part of the things that go along with the choices that you have made for yourself. Obligations are more like things that, again, you have to do. But if they're not a part of your actual responsibility, do you actually have to do them? Sometimes you do. And that stinks if it's not an absolute yes, because that's just life. But I think if you think about it, you'll find that there's a lot of things you might be saying yes to, you don't have to say yes to, and you can choose to say no. And then we have freedom is not the absence of limitations and constraints, but it is finding the right ones, those that fit our nature and liberate us. So that is what freedom means to me when I think about this, when I think about how I want to engage with it in my journal. But that does not mean that this is what it has to mean to you, right? Again, going back to Meha's letter, she says this is something that means something different to everybody. It's a deeply personal topic. And what it means to you out in the schism of the world may be different from what it means to you when you start reflecting on the things in your journal, even. So I encourage you to think about it. And if you do have an idea of what it means to you, go ahead and write that down on page 3 of your journal. And as we go through this month, if you're able to attend other Sonder socials, I hope that you are, you will probably get the pleasure of having other facilitators, and they will talk to you about what this means to them, and it might be very different. So without further ado, we are going to dive into our opening activity. This is going to be something that you will do, excuse me, on any blank page or space within your journal. And we are going to create a freedom acrostic poem. So again, just find a blank page and then think about some things that come to mind when you think of the word freedom. Again, this is what you think. There's no right or wrong answers, okay? And don't second guess yourself. Just, you can jot them down or you can kind of just keep them, hovering about in your head, and try to come up with at least 7 words or phrases that describe what freedom means to you. And then you're going to see how you can work them into a poem where the first letter of each line is a letter from the word freedom. You can do sentences, one word, sets of words, etc. So this is how you would set up your page. You can go ahead and just write freedom down, and then you're going to write your poem there. And then we have some examples here. So the one in blue kind of came from the Googles. And then the one on the right is the one that I ended up writing for myself. And then the one in the bottom is what it looks like if you just do a single word. Now, the other thing that you can do is you can just make sure that that letter is within that first line somewhere. So maybe your F word is like in the middle of your sentence and you just circle the F. There are no rules, right? This is just a fun way for you to begin engaging with this new theme and thinking about it. So don't put any pressure on yourself. Just have fun and just jot stuff down. You'll surprise yourself. So I'm going to put on some music for you all while you work on this, and then we'll get into the beginnings of our monthly setup. Okay, if you're still working on your acrostic, don't panic. There will probably be other elements as we move through that you might get done with more quickly than others, so you can go back to that. And there's also no limit to this, right? Like just because I move on to something else doesn't mean that you can never come back to this page in your planner ever again. You can keep working on this as soon as we're done. You can keep working on it throughout the month, whatever it is that you need to do. But in the interest of time, we are going to get into our main event, which is setting up our monthly planner. So we are going to be starting with our July reflections, which are on page 8. I love getting to reflect back on the previous month before we move into the next month. And of course, July is not completely over yet. We still have a few more days here. But still, it's so good to sit and think about wins, challenges, favorite moments, and things we might want to start, stop, and continue. I am always amazed, and I guess I shouldn't be, right? Because it's definitely probably part of my ADHD, but I'm always amazed at the things that I forget so quickly that have happened in the month. So I have my reflections up on the screen. I also have a fun photo to share with you all at the very, very end of June, like literally June 30th. I got to meet Jennifer Krippner, one of our other fellow facilitators here. She was in Nashville for a conference, and so we were able to get together and squeeze in a little time together between her presenting and literally getting on a flight. She is amazing to me. Like, I am so envious of just like her energy. And it was so wonderful to meet her. So I wanted to share that with all of you. And then, so a win is obviously something that you did, something that made you smile, made you happy, an accomplishment. For me, July was filled with a lot of work. It's been busy, but it has been going well. And I finished the book last month, and that was one of my intentions for July. So I'm pretty excited about that. I've been doing a really good job of eating out less and making meals at home, and I've stopped beating myself up for my low energy, at least for now. I am sure it will be a continuous battle of trying to give myself grace and understanding. And that's okay. We don't have to be perfect, right? Progress over perfection here. The challenge is something that didn't go right, something out of your control, stumbling block, a frustration. For me, that's not as much time carved out for myself this month. I've had trouble sleeping, neck and back pain because of all of the working and sitting at a computer, and not enough body movement, and still feeling just a little disconnected from like friends. It's not anything bad, it's just different life seasons, and it happens. That's part of life, but it's also okay to feel a little lonely about it. So and then your favorite moments, obviously these will be the favorite things that sort of happened throughout your month. So I don't have meeting Jennifer listed here because technically that happened in July or in June, sorry. But I took a mental health day this month with my husband, and that was the best thing ever. I got to take they're my husband's grandparents, but they're more like his parents, so they're kind of like my in-laws. We got to take them out to a local restaurant to celebrate Nina's birthday, and like they don't go out to eat really often, so it was really nice to do that for them. And Sonder Socials, because I have been feeling kind of like disconnected from my normal friend group in life. It's been so lovely to come to these socials and connect with all of you. So thank you all for being here. And we had pool game, Discord game night, and lunch with a friend and her new boyfriend. I got to meet him for the first time, and he was so nice. So I'm super happy for her. And then things we want to start, stop, and continue. So we're gonna start things that are not being done, but you want to do, things to begin doing to get better results, things we're trying or experimenting with for better results. For me, that's trying to carve out time for myself in this busy season. We're gonna stop things that are not working or helping, things that impede or are not practical, things that are not delivering desired results, things you dislike, things that no longer serve you. For me, that's going to be postponing sleep to watch TV. And then continue things that are working well, things you want to keep, things to continue to see if they are worthwhile, and things you like or need. So giving myself grace about energy and capacity. So here are some other fun examples here on the screen from Sonder Club of the start, stop, and continue. And then I also found this fun things on our Instagram page. They've got what negative thinking traps can look like. So when you're thinking about things to stop, if one of these thinking traps applies to you. Maybe think about putting that in your stop category. And then they also shared this formula on Instagram of I feel X and Y because of A or B, and I want to feel Z. So instead of doing stop, start, and continue, you could switch this up a little bit and say, I feel because of I want to. And that's obviously kind of it's doing the same thing but in a different way, right? You like feel, you're acknowledging how you feel about something, what's causing it, which obviously would be the thing you'd want to stop, and then you want to do something different to like support that. So just a different way to kind of switch it up. So I'll cycle through these slides here, and then I will put on some music for you to think about your reflections before we set up our intentions for August. Thank you all for taking a moment to think about July. If you're still thinking, again, that is totally fine. And a quick reminder, this is your journal, right? It's not for anybody else. Nobody's going to show up your door and ask you to see it or give you a grade or anything. So do whatever works for you. If that looks like maybe writing on some sticky notes or jotting down ideas before you put it in, great, do it. If it looks like a lot of scribbling, that's okay too. We want this to work for you, whatever that means. So we are now going to flip over to page 9 to set up our intentions for August. And I always like to point out that at the top of this page, it says, new month, new you. Setting intentions is not making a to-do list. It's asking something of yourself and then giving yourself the strength to do it. And our intentions have some pre-printed categories here, but you can change them if they don't suit you. So what we have pre-printed in the journal is spiritual health, personal life, physical health, key relationships, money management, and professional goals. But again, right? This is perfect for our theme of freedom. You have the freedom to change what is printed there in your journal. It's not set in stone. It's not carved into your skin. It's not stamped on your heart, right? If it doesn't resonate with you, scratch it out, white it out, put a sticker over it, whatever works best, and change that category up. When you are setting your intentions, you can lean into that theme of freedom if you want to. You could focus on one area like self-love or self-talk. If you have one overall goal, you could see how different categories might support that goal, things that you can do in those areas. You can decide to just jot down what you want to do and why, or you could do something fun like song lyrics that inspire you, or just the name of a song even. You can write how you want to feel this month in each area, maybe one thing you want to do less of, one thing you want to do more of. You can use stickers, colors, or images, whatever sparks your fancy. I like doing different things in this section. I've done all kinds of different things. There's not one that I think works better for me than the other. It's just however the mood strikes me. Also, the wonderful Maya put together all of these different national things that we have going on this month for us. So if you're looking for something different for inspiration, maybe one of these will speak to you. It is National Dog Month. I talked in the beginning about having puppers, and that's part of our responsibility if we decide to take on a little fluff nugget, right? I do not have pups, but I do have cats, and they are surprisingly demanding. One of them woke me up this morning. It's also National Wellness Month, and I love that it's wellness. That's a great word. It's National Goat Cheese Month, National Sandwich Month. I love a good sandwich. A National Happiness Month, National Crayon Collection Month. That's super fun. National Golf Month, National Eye Exam Month, and National Family Fun Month. And there in the center are some different ideas of ways that you could switch up these categories to better fit your needs. Feel free to take any of those if they resonate with you a little bit more. And I will move back and forth between all of these slides. So if I move off of something before you're ready, don't worry, I will come back to it. Here are some examples. So these are all examples of ways people have used pictures or stickers to kind of set up their intention. So if you're more of a visual person, if you love a vision board, this might be a good tactic for you. There are some quotes here up on the screen, and then somebody that decided to do the more and less. So like for spiritual health, they said more gratitude and less worry. We have just like one word and then how to support that word for the intentions. There's a do and let go of, and that person changed up the spiritual health to mental health. And then somebody here on the left decided to change all of the different categories. So you can change some of them, you can change all of them, whatever works for you. And then we've got the how I want to feel in each section, and then ways to work on that and habits to support that thing. And then some ideas that we've had shared in chat previously was Dinah shared that they like to start with the feel, like what we see there on the screen, and then think of 3 ways to achieve that goal. And then Georgie likes to use the theme when setting their intention. So an example for this month would be, I will celebrate my freedom by, or exercise my freedom by. And then I have this from the Instagram page. When you're setting your intentions, do release what doesn't serve you. Don't hold on to past mistakes. Believe in the decisions you make for yourself. Don't second guess your ability to know what's best for you. Do take care of yourself. Don't neglect your well being by taking on too much. Do focus on getting 1% better every day. And don't put your needs on the back burner. For my August intentions, I decided to go with quotes. I found like one or two that really spoke to me. And so I was like, all right, that's what I'm doing this month. So I have some different things that I have picked there up on the screen to support my different intentions. And then I got to use the fun stickers from the sticker pack to kind of go with some of those things. So I will hop between all of these slides for inspiration while you work on your intentions. Definitely let us know how you're setting yours up in the chat, if there's anything particular or special or different that you're doing, and then we'll come together and move on to our next page. Okay. With your intentions set, or at least an idea of how you want to set them, we are now going to move into our mood tracker on page 10. So, mood tracker is something that helps us understand trends and how we're feeling so that we can hopefully notice and then begin making shifts to bring in tools what works when positive moods show up for us. So, with the mood tracker, we do this fun little game. It's not really a game, but I say that because we alternate whether the pattern is like the wheel or the hexagons. And it's based on how many days are in the month. So if it is like 31 days, it'll be the wheel. And if it's 30 days or less, I think it's the hexagons. And if you have the sticker pack this month, they did accidentally make the hexagon shape. I think because we were like alternating there for a while, but then July has 31 days and so does August. And so somehow things got kind of screwy there. But thankfully the hexagons fit into the wheel pattern just fine. So this month we do have the wheel. And when you are setting up your mood tracker, you can choose to do 2 to 3 tough feelings, 1 neutral, and 2 to 3 positive feelings. You could focus in on that theme of freedom this month and think about what emotions or feelings kind of spark inspiration for that theme for you. Or maybe think about how do you feel when you know that you're not making choices that align with your authentic self? Because that might be a clue that you're not leaning into freedom, right? You can decide to fill in every emotion that comes up that day, or just fill in whichever was the strongest. And we'll have some examples that take a look at how to do that in a second. You can use stickers, colored pins, doodles, whatever works for you to kind of create your key at the top there. And then some ideas that have been shared from the Sonder fan before is Katura said that at the end of the month, they like to count up each feeling and write the number of times they felt that way. And then Katie had shared that they treat this like the movie Inside Out, where she has like bubbles that get complex and have different shades throughout the day. And there's like an example of what this looks like as well. So this is our feelings wheel, and I will come back to this. So if you are using this as a traditional mood tracker, you can use this to kind of find some new feelings for inspiration. But this is an example of how to fill out the mood tracker if you are trying to track multiple moods in the day. You can see with both of these examples, they picked a particular color for their mood, and then they just did different lines throughout the day so that they could visually see what was going on, like how often were they stressed. And both of these made good use of this in the sense that this person had shared that on the 30th, they had a pretty anxious day and they were feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening again. I'm having such a tough day. This is hard. But then they looked back at their journal and realized that actually throughout the month overall, they've been pretty good with anxiety. And so instead of feeling like, oh my gosh, the snowball is spiraling, I'm like, I thought I had a good handle on this. And now because of this one day, I don't, they were able to kind of look and see, oh, I'm just having a really bad day with it today. Overall, this month has been really positive. And then with the example on the right, kind of similar things on the days where they had kind of like more difficult things, they jotted down notes about what it might have impacted that. But also on days where they had really happy days, they wrote down things that impacted that as well. So they could kind of look back and see like, oh, this is kind of what may have had an impact on my mood this day. And then this is the example, I believe, with like the different bubbles, or if it's not the exact example, it's another one like it. So kind of as the day went on, the bubbles get bigger or larger, depending on which emotion was felt more often. And then you've got different moods here using different stickers. I like turning the stickers into faces. I think it's fun. So you can use those to track if you've got stickers you want to use. But this page gets repurposed a lot, and it's not because tracking moods is not beneficial, it's just because having a space to track things in particular is very helpful, especially if you're dealing with anything medical or like mental health as well. Sometimes it can be super helpful to track specific things related to that and take them into your next therapy session or doctor's appointment. So one of the things that you could track is anxiety levels. That's what I use this page for a few years in my journal, and it was incredibly helpful. When I was tracking, the levels that I used were none, scattered, high, low, moderate, and panic. And then somebody else put together like a stress tracker. So they kind of like had different things that they experienced for their stress and numbers of how they want to track that. And then depending on how high their numbers are, they had some things that they could do to try to mitigate that stress. So I thought that was really creative and neat. But you could also change this into a new spending tracker, a workout tracker. I love the self-care tracker. It's a great idea. And they've kind of divided this into pieces of the pie. Obviously, this is hexagon, but you could kind of draw out lines into your grid there if you wanted to. I also like this rate the day, and that's kind of been like a more popular thing recently, where you just kind of rate the day on a scale of 1 to 6, if it was like a tough day or a great day. And then you could do a book tracker, or I also like this mood boost tracker. So tracking different activities that can help to boost your mood. Last month, I decided to turn this into a physical care tracker. And I made like one thing that was like to check in with myself and try to notice like how tired I am. And I did it. I hated it. I did not like it. I did not enjoy it. It didn't really teach me anything. It just made me frustrated. And so I realized that I was just doing this and focusing in on this because I felt like I should, because I know it's something that I need improvement on. But if I'm honest with myself, it's not something I want to do right now. And it's not something I have a lot of time for right now, just because I'm in like a busy season with work and other things. And so I am going to lean into my freedom to choose to do something different. And I'm going to go back to replenishment tracker. So I did this 2 months ago where I tracked different activities that kind of helped me feel replenished, either, mental rest or creative rest, whatever it may be. And I did that back in June and I absolutely loved it. So I'm going to go back to that and try that again because I enjoyed it. So I will flip through all of these examples for all of you so you can think about how you want to set this up and how you'd like to put together this tracker. Definitely let us know what you're doing in the chat, and then we'll move on to our next section together. Okay. Hopefully you figured out a way to make this work best for you this month. And it's all about trying things, right? Like I tried a lot of different things in the mood tracker before I figured out that anxiety tracking worked for me. And then I did that for a really long time. And then once I felt like, okay, this has been really good for me, but I'm not getting as much out of it anymore, I tried a lot of other things. And so far, the replenishment tracker is the thing that I really like. So sometimes you have to try stuff out and just see how it goes before you know if it's going to work or not. So we're now going to go into our last section here together, our habit tracker on page 11. So thinking about new habits we want to start, habits that don't serve us that we want to stop doing, and continuing habits that bring value. Again, you can think about using freedom as your focus as you select habits today. You can pick an overall theme other than freedom, like grounded, calm, joy, delight. Maybe think about some of those feelings you selected for your mood tracker if you set it up as a mood tracker. You can continue habits from last month if they're working well, or if you just want to track them, right? This is a habit tracker, not a habit to-do list. Sometimes tracking what isn't going well can be just as beneficial as hitting every single line item, right? And you want to find a balance between things you know you can probably do, like I always have to take my medications on there. That's something I have to do. I know I'm going to do it, right? And it's a good reminder. And then things that may be a little bit tougher to commit to. And just remember, you do not have to fill in every line that is there. You can track just a few things or one thing even. Here are some really fun, colorful examples. I like the kind of like rainbow grid there on the left, how they like took 2 days to be a certain color. That's super fun. And then this other person decided to kind of color in the whole thing just so that it looked pretty, but then they used hearts to track when they were actually tracking the habit or the feeling. And then we've got some other activity or other trackers here, rather, with some different activities. You can kind of bubble in with pins. And again, you can see like on this tracker on the left, there's a lot of blank spaces. That doesn't mean that they didn't have a successful month. That's just data for them. That's just insight for them to see like, oh, I didn't do that very often. Why is that? Am I being reluctant to that? Kind of like I experienced with my physical habit tracker before. I didn't enjoy it, so I'm not going to do it anymore. And then the person on the right decided to use numbers, and they were tracking like on a scale of like 1 to 5 of how well they feel like they did the activity that day. So that's another strategy you could try. The one that I had last month is here on the left, and you can see I was only tracking like 5 things. I didn't fill in every line. And for things like my physical care, nourish, and replenish, I had written down all the different things that kind of like counted as an activity of that nature for me. And I have decided this month that I'm still tracking the same things, but for Nourish, I want to get curious about how often I'm eating fruit and vegetables and not eating out. I want to actually break out those different activities to where I can kind of see what's going on. So still tracking kind of the same thing, just going ahead and calling out this Nourish activity as it stands. You've got folks here that have kind of repurposed this to be like a particular thing. So you've got junk food tracker, celebration tracker. I think that that's great. I celebrate my body when I go to the gym, work out at home, etc. And then you've got some great ideas there from the Sonder fam. Brenda, who's with us today, your idea is up there. Thank you, Brenda. And then just thinking about different ways to incorporate this into your journal, we do have weekly pages. And so something that I've done in the past is put a weekly habit in my monthly wheel. And so I can kind of change up what that weekly habit is week to week in the weekly setup. But then it kind of gives me some flexibility and a place to track it on a monthly level. You can also think about different types of rest and tying into your mind body health plan. But overall, this should not feel like stress. This should not feel like another to do for you. It's meant to help you. And then we have some other fun ideas here of things you can think about and some other things that you might want to start tracking. So I'll put on a little music for us and then we'll wrap up our time together. All right, had to get one little Hamilton song in there, right, with our theme of freedom before we closed out together. But that does bring us to an end. Thank you all so much for spending your time with us this morning and getting ready for August. We would love to see pictures of your journal and how you got everything set up if you are comfortable sharing on the app. Also, really quickly, we do have a little founder ask of the month from Meha. You may have heard about the new like AI private beta life coach thing that they have going on. If you are able to participate in that and kind of help them beta test that out, they do have a 50% off code for you. But even if you're not able to, even if that doesn't fit within your time or budget, if you are a LinkedIn person, if you could help Meha share the word on LinkedIn, she would appreciate it. And then a couple of things that they're bringing over to that new platform. People are loving all of the personalized readings and coachings and the daily or weekly habits. But they are introducing new things all the time. So they've got a swap feature coming. There's tailored results and self-discovery homework. And soon there will be a share feature. I have been doing the beta and I'm just getting it weekly. And I've really enjoyed like the personalized journal prompts that are coming with it because it's based off of what I put in with my personality types and then also what my current goals are. And it's just been like a really nice way for me to check in with myself each week. If you have a friend that does not do Silk and Sonder and you refer them, you can get $10 off. They'll get $10 off, and then you can come to socials together, and that would be so fun. If you're able to upgrade to an annual subscription, it can save you some money, but you do have to pay up front. So just keep that in mind and plan accordingly. And then if you will, fill out our feedback survey. We would love to know what you think about this and all of our other socials. Maya's going to be popping all of these links into the chat, including the YouTube link where all of our socials are recorded and hosted up there online. This one will be up in a few business days. And then I will share in the chat the playlist that I used today, but you should be able to go on to Spotify and search Silk and Sonder and find most of my playlists, including my master list, which everything gets dumped into eventually. Again, it was our pleasure spending this time with you this morning. We hope you're feeling ready for August. Until next time, be good to each other, and we'll see you all in Sonder Club.